Jonesborough. Jonesborough is a small village and civil parish in the Ring of Gullion in County Armagh, Northern Ireland. It is about 8 kilometres south of Newry and lies 1 kilometre from the border with County Louth in the Republic of Ireland. In the 2001 census it had a population of 273 people. In 1837 it had 174 inhabitants. The Catholic parish includes the neighbouring area of Untitled and crosses the county border into Louth. Places of interest: Newry Castle, Kilner, Zagat Pillar Stone, the Holy Stone. History: Roth Jones founded the village in 1706. Jones was the landlord of the area in the early part of the 18th century. The village was previously known as 4 Mile House. Kilner Zagat Pillar Stone. Kilner Zagat Stone stands in a field not far from Kilner Zagat Bridge. It is a tall pillar stone, 2 meters high, and inscribed with some Ogham script, crosses most within circles, and a Gaelic inscription. The pillar stone is said to have originally been a pagan site for druidical worship and sacrifice. It is also believed to commemorate an ancient warrior, a boundary. Also at this spot there is an ancient graveyard believed to have belonged to the Druids. The pillar stone stands at the northern edge of a double circle of graves, the outer ring of graves being larger in size than the inner ones, with the feet of the dead pointing towards the center. The graves cannot be seen as they are completely covered in grass. At the base of the stone there are some small stones with crosses engraved on them. One of these small stones has a peculiar shape to it, and it is supposed to fit into the cavity on the top of the pillar stone. There is a legend attached to this stone. This whole area west of Slieve Gullion, including Untitled, was known as Glen Arsawas, the Glen of the Heifer. It is said that there once was a famous cow in this glen who gave milk in abundance to everybody who came, always filling the bucket. However, a person attempted, either through greed or malice, to milk her into a sieve. This angered the cow so much that she stamped her foot on this stone and then fled the valley forever. The shape of her hoof remains in this stone to this day. The name Zagat means Church of the Priests, and it is believed a monastery stood here, although there is no trace of it today. According to local folklore, the monastery was knocked down so that the materials could be used to erect Newry Castle. When the monks settled here, they adopted the pagan pillar stone and inscribed it with the inscriptions of crosses, some with circles. Part of the older Ogham inscription, an ancient form of writing, was hammered off. The crosses were a sign of the triumph of Christianity, and the inscription a rededication of the stone. This is in Gaelic with 1 or 2 words either in Gaelic or Latin. It reads, "This place Turnok son of Kieran the Little have signed it into the keeping of the Apostle Peter." Some say that this Turnok son of Kieran the Little died in 714 or 716, and others say that he was Turnok, brother of Tommain, Archbishop of Armagh, in 623. Both Turnok and Tommain are believed to be buried near the stone. It does appear, however, that Turnok was a holy man and devoted himself and his possessions to the service of God. This stone is the earliest Christian monument in Ireland. Newry Castle. Newry Castle is built on solid rock. It is almost square, 8 meters each way, and is 3 stories high. There are musketry loopholes on each wall except the north-facing wall. This wall held the fireplaces which protrude on the outside. For this time on, this place became known as Ballinamoira, a place of the Moar, and was called in Irish Bothera Wire. A Captain Anthony Smith was made constable of the castle and left to guard the pass with 12 men. In the patent rolls in 1606, King James I set aside the following area for the maintenance and security of the castle, fort and ward of Newry: the towns, Untitled, Carrick Broad, Dromid, a four-letter part of feed. The man who ordered the castle to be built was called Lord Deputy Mountjoy, who replaced Lord Deputy Essex, who was beheaded after signing a truce with the enemy, the O'Neills. Lord Mountjoy's real name was Charles Blount. He was 36 when he was sent to Ireland by Queen Elizabeth. He was a soldier, courtier, scholar, bookman, and was also deeply religious. He could also speak French and Italian. It was Mountjoy's belief that in every fort some little keeper of stone be built. Neither need these little castles be works of any great charge, for they may be easily made such as this people will hardly force them. After this the Moray Pass was a relatively safe passage from north to south. In 1641 the Confederates garrisoned the castle, and in August-September 1690 King William's army, under the command of Schomberg, marched from Belfast through this pass to Dundalk on the way to the Boyne. Lieutenant Colonel Lawrence Dempsey of Galmoy's regiment, commanding 40 dragoons, and Lieutenant Colonel Fitzgerald of Bellew's regiment with a company of infantry, ambushed a Williamite detachment at the stone bridge near Jonesborough on June 23. Early in the morning, routing the Williamite infantry and taking prisoners. There were casualties on both sides, and Dempsey, a veteran of almost half a century of European warfare, died of his wounds on the eve of the Battle of the Boyne at Eld Bridge. In one account of this journey, this area is described as having vast mountains, between which there is a great bog. Through the middle of this bog is a long road with a deep ditch and a small stone bridge. The road runs towards a place called the 4 Mile House, the present Halfway House. The bog is believed to be the Dunnery Bog, which is now believed to be part of the railway embankment. The most famous story of this area is about Zagat. Mountjoy left his warder and 12 men to garrison the castle in 1601. Shortly after this, his warder shot a local man reputed to be a wizard, as a spy. The wizard's sole companion was an enormous black cat, who in revenge destroyed the garrison. He slit the throats of the army's flocks and herds and carried them off. And so, for many a long day, the cat of Moray Castle was a terror to the soldiers of the Pale. Adavoil Railway Station. The Ulster-Dublin and Drogheda Main Line Company opened a double track in 1850, which extended from Dundalk to a point north of Adavoil Station. This was a temporary station known as the Wellington Inn, and was in use from 1850 to 1852 whilst a track was being cut through the curving rocks, now known as the Wellington, possibly after the engineer responsible for feet. Until this length of line was ready, a coach ran between the inn and Portadown. Another station north of Dundalk was formerly known as Plaster, but the name was then changed to Mount Pleasant and Jonesborough. The section of line through the Wellington to Garagwood was opened in 1852, and going south through this, the steep gradient meant that goods trains laboured under the loads, and even with a good head of steam they didn't exceed 15 metres ph. In 1907, Mr. Walsh, the station master at Adavoil, was scalded by steam from a locomotive, and Mr. Fitzpatrick, the gateman at Mike, was killed by a goods train at the Mike level crossing in 1919. On the 29th of April 1921, at the top of the station, bolts were loosened on the track, and 9:30 p.m. Belfast to Dublin goods halted. There is no record of any casualties. King George V opened the first Parliament in Northern Ireland in June of that same year, and the 10th Hussars who had attended that event returned by train on the 24th inst. There were 3 special trains, and the third one was attacked near Adavoil. 4 men died at scene, 3 soldiers, who were and the guard Frank Gallagher from Donegal, who was stationed at Grosvenor Street Goods Depot. 2 further soldiers died later, and 2 railway officials were seriously injured. They were Andrew Berkeley of the Traffic traffic department and the assistant guard down Madden. 40 horses died, some having to be shot because of the serious injuries. It was said that soldiers wept for their dead horses as they had been through the entire 1914 to 1918 war together. A massive grave was dug and the horses buried at the scene of the accident. There were 4 officers, 113 men and 4 horses on the train which was attacked. In all, 15 vehicles were destroyed. For many years there were reports of a ghost train traveling south. Gatemen saw its lights, but on opening the gates to let it through, no train appeared. It was possibly connected with the derailment of the train carrying the 10th Hussars and horses south to the Curragh. The event of the railway opened up an entirely new means of travel between Dublin and Belfast. From 1925 this entire line was known as the Great Northern Railway, or simply as the G.N.R. Oil Railway Station. The Troubles. On the 17th of February 1978, a British Army Gazelle helicopter went down near Jonesborough after being fired by a provisional IRA unit from the South Armagh Brigade. The IRA unit was involved in a gun battle with a Green Jackets observation post deployed in the area, and the helicopter was sent in to support the ground troops. The helicopter crashed after the pilot lost control of the aircraft whilst evading ground fire. The incident resulted in the death of Lieutenant Colonel Ian Douglas Cordon Lloyd. On the 20th of March 1989, Robert Buchanan and Harry Breen, both senior officers in the Royal Ulster Constabulary, were shot dead by the Provisional Irish Republican Army while travelling in Buchanan's car near Jonesborough. See also the Troubles in Jonesborough. People. James Haslam, born in Cork, lived at Jonesborough and worked as a trimmer. He was one of those who lost their lives when the RMS Titanic sank in April 1912. Sean Gerard Hoey from Jonesborough was acquitted of involvement in the Omagh bombing of 1998 and various other charges. Padraig McNamee, from Drom-Inty, was GAA president from 1938 to 1943. Tourism. Jonesborough has become a popular destination for people living in the Republic of Ireland for purchasing consumer fireworks, especially around Halloween, as the sale of fireworks is strongly restricted in the Republic of Ireland. Sport. The first Gaelic Athletic Association club in County Armagh was briefly active in Drom-Inty in 1887. Jonesborough Border Rangers GFC was active from the 1920s to 1946, and the present club, Drom-Inty St Patrick's GAC, was formed in 1952. Gaelic football and camogie are played